Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg and I am here today to do a Friday Reads video where I wrap up the week in reading and talk about any bookish or just exciting things that have happened during the week. This was a really interesting reading week. We'll talk about that when we get to the actual Friday Reads portion of the video. There are a couple of things that I wanted to cover before we get there. The first is I want to mention my t-shirt, which I'm realizing now, as soon as I sit down in my chair in front of the camera, you can't really see it. But it was a gift. It says Black Books Matter. It comes from Mahogany Books. It was gifted from Erica at the Broken Spine. I will link her channel down below. She has become a very good bookish friend, just friend in general. And she sent this as a belated birthday present for me, which is lovely. If you follow along, you know I love independent bookstores. I love independent bookstore t-shirts. And this, therefore, is right up my alley. I love the message, Black Books Matter. I love that it has a rainbow. I love that it comes from a Black-owned business. And someday, now, I need to actually manage to visit a Mahogany Books location. There are 3. And it's on my bookstore bucket list now, for sure. There are, I think, 3 bookstores that I have t-shirts from, but I have not actually managed to visit in person. And those are Mahogany Books now, The Raven in Kansas, and Powell's Bookstore in Portland, one of the most famous independent bookstores out there. And someday I will get to all 3, but I love independent bookstores and independent bookstore t-shirts. I love the story behind this. Erica told me about the bookstore Mahogany and made me even more happy to have it. The shirt it's a little big on me, but that's okay because I'm a little big. And actually it feels very comfortable to wear because it's so big. So that is great as well. So thank you, Erica, if you're watching this. And just in general, I am so thrilled to have this shirt, and I wanted to show it off for you now. The other thing that I wanted to mention, it's funny, I wanted to prioritize the shirt because I figured you'd be able to see it, and you really actually cannot. Oh well, it's the nature of t-shirts. The other thing was that I crossed a milestone on my channel this morning as I'm filming this. I'm filming this on Thursday, July 20th, but that doesn't mean anything because you are watching this at any point in the future. Time means nothing on the internet. But on the morning of Thursday, July 20th, 2023, I crossed 10,000 subscribers on this channel. And what? It's not unexpected because I saw the milestone approaching. And as it got closer, I started watching to see, like, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? And when I was going to bed last night, I was at 9,999. So one of the first things I did when I woke up this morning was check, like, did I make it? Did I make it? And I had. It's been a bit of a roller coaster because I think not long after that, I had lost a subscriber, so I was back at 9,999, and then I gained 2 subscribers and was at 10,001, and then I lost another. It's been a roller coaster. But this morning I crossed 10,000 subscribers, and it feels wild. I am still gobsmacked that anyone, let alone 10,000 people, wants to follow along with whatever nonsense I do here. And I make fun of myself. I do put a lot of work into the channel. I hope it shows. And I really do appreciate everyone who does follow along, but I am a self-deprecating type of person. And if you follow along, you probably know that. So I make fun of myself, but it's a huge accomplishment. And I don't know how to feel about it because it feels weird. I'm also somebody who has imposter syndrome a lot, like really badly. So I don't know. I haven't decided how to celebrate this or if I should either because it feels, I don't know. It feels weird to me to celebrate milestones because it's like, hey, pay attention to me. And I don't know. So I feel like my inclination is just to acknowledge it in this Friday Reads video and then never speak of it again. But I know other people appreciate milestone celebrations, whether it be a birthday or a Q&A or anything like that. So I don't know. I was thinking the only thing I can think of to do would be a Q&A. And I did one when I crossed 3,000 subscribers. And to be honest, it was a lot. It was a whole thing. I got so many questions that I had to divide the questions up among 4, maybe even 5 videos. And then I still had questions left over, so I started burning them off in Friday Reads videos. Like during a Friday Reads video, I would read one question and then the next week I would do another until I had no more. And it's a good problem to have that there were that many questions, but it was a lot to go through, and I don't know. So if a Q&A feels like the most obvious way to do some sort of celebration, but I admit I'm very hesitant to do it again. However, since 3K, there are a lot of new subscribers and people following. I mean, 7,000 of them. And a lot of them, people joined since my Pulitzer Prize reaction. So there was like a huge bump. So there are a lot of people who are still relatively new. So I don't know. Maybe it would be a fun and interesting thing to do. I'm not going to commit to it yet, but, and this is a dangerous thing to do because I know everybody's going to comment and say yes, but I'm going to ask. If you would like to see a Q&A or something else, if you have another idea, let me know in the comment section down below. But if you'd like to see a Q&A or something, let me know, and I'll think about it, because I'm a little hesitant or reluctant to do another Q&A, but there's a give and a take here, and I fully recognize that, and I try to remind myself of that all the time. Like, all of this exists because there's a give and a take. I wanted that sense of community when I started the channel in early 2019. I mean, technically 2018. I think I had a YouTube channel for 1 week in 2018 because I started at the very end of December. So I don't even count it. So at the time I started this, I really wanted a sense of community about books, and I've found it. It's been really great, not just because of the subscribers, but because of the people I've met, the other people who have channels, and the people who comment. And in that sense of community, I don't want to just not do anything if other people would be having fun. So let me know if you want something, and if you want that something to be a Q&A. Down below, because again, it's not just about me and what I want, it's also about you. So if that's something that you would find fun and interesting, let me know, and I will find a way to make it possible for me without... I think I learned a lot from the last one, because like 4 or 5 videos was really unwieldy for me, and it was also really unwieldy for people watching. So if that's what you want, I will figure out a way to make it possible and more wieldy, not unwieldy, and we can go from there. But I feel weird acknowledging it again, because I'm somebody who, I don't like celebrating birthdays. I like acknowledgement for them and then leave it alone. And I feel like that's kind of this as well. But so I feel weird bringing it up, but I felt like I needed to acknowledge it. To say thank you, because I end every video by saying that I appreciate your time watching however many of my videos you watch, and it's really true. If you have taken time out of your day to watch part or all of any of my videos, that's amazing to me. If you did it with like trolling intent, which does not actually happen all that much anymore, that's a very different thing. I've closed the comment sections on the videos that were getting that kind of response, and life has been a lot better ever since. I've learned a lot in the years having there have been growing pains periodically. If you remember, like last October, I definitely had some growing pains, and a lot of that was because of the sort of trolling content and negative attention. And I've learned to manage that to a degree. I'm in a place right now, and I really hope this continues, where I am actually kind of ahead of schedule when it comes to filming. And part of that is moving the way I do Friday Reads. Instead of filming on a Friday and editing and scheduling for the next day all in one day, I film on Thursday and then edit on Friday. And I've learned ways to make it easier on myself so I can still create content. And for example, I've been filming ahead a little bit, and I'm hoping to do that. So when I film this video today, I'm hoping that either today or tomorrow I can film at least one other video that I can edit and have ready to go for next week. And that has been really good for me as well. So anyway, it's just all this just to say thank you. It has been an experience. I've learned a lot. Hopefully things have gotten better. And yeah, I'm looking forward to whatever comes in the future, because I really love having the sense of community. And what's interesting as well is I did this because I wanted an outlet for book stuff. And since I started the channel, I've found more bookish content in my own life. I've had new avenues of creative output, and a lot of it has kind of come as an outgrowth of the channel. Like, because I had a channel, Joel was not a reader for a stretch, and me having this and a way to talk about books kind of ended up sparking his own interest in books again. And now he joins me on the channel a lot, at least once a month, and that has been fun. We've made friends at bookstores like Montana Book Company, and I've made friends from BookTube, and they there are people that I regularly message and talk about books and other things and send funny memes to, and that has been great as well. So thank you, if you are watching this, for making this such an enjoyable experience for me. I hope that I am able to do the same for you, and again, I look forward to everything that comes next. The only other thing I want to mention before we get to the Friday Reads of it all is I forgot to mention this in my last Friday Reads video, where we talked about Last Call, the Max docuseries that is inspired by the book by Elon Green of the same name. And we watched the second episode. They're releasing them weekly on Sundays, and the second episode was just as good. So if you haven't started watching Last Call, it's better than the book, because it really leans into ways in which the gay community was sort of ignored during the investigations, and why, because these were crimes that were happening in the gay community, they were ignored by police officers and not taken seriously. It's a really great series. It's difficult because it involves murder and mayhem, but it is fascinating. And I had forgotten that we had also watched another documentary. This is just a single movie, not a series, inspired by a book, All That Heaven Allows, a biography of Rock Hudson by Mark Griffin. Now, interestingly, the book is called All That Heaven Allows, inspired by, I think, the title of a movie that Rock Hudson was in, which is All That Heaven Allows. The documentary on Max is All That Heaven Allowed, past tense. It's just interesting that there's that little bit subtle difference right there. It's about the life of Rock Hudson, obviously, and his career and the ways he lived as a gay man, publicly in ways that he could, but also very privately, and it was not publicly known that he was gay, even though he was actively living a gay life. And his relationships and how his career was shaped because of all these things, and because of the impressions that people had of him, because he really had that all-American male physique that people, it's still, if you watch back, there is really stunning photo and footage of him in his prime, and then ultimately he died of AIDS, and he was one of the most public figures to die of AIDS in the early years of it, and the ways in which it has shaped his legacy even more. And again, the series, I think, is a bit of a better, I keep calling it a series, it's not a series, this one is a movie. It's a bit better because you can actually hear the audio of people speaking, you can see footage of them being interviewed, and you can actually see footage of Rock Hudson. The one thing I will say is, it occasionally, like some intern somewhere, I assume, bless their heart, they were tasked with going through all of the footage of Rock Hudson that exists, and they would find quotes that related to whatever people were talking about. So if people talked about death, you'd cut to a quote of Rock Hudson in a movie talking about death. And at a certain point, it's like, you don't need to do that. We get it. But otherwise, it was a really great experience. I'd recommend both of those. They are both on Max. Let's get to the actual Friday Reads portion of this video. Now, why has it been an interesting reading week? It's been interesting because my reading really slowed down a lot over the past week, and there's no real reason for it to have done that. I don't think there's any one reason that it did that. I think it's a combination of things. One, I've been just kind of curious about other things. Like, I listened to a lot of podcasts this week, so I didn't spend a lot of time listening to my audiobook as a result. And I did finish one book, but I took more time getting through it. So I think part of this as well is that in June, I read the most books I have read in any month of the year so far. I read 11 books. And in the beginning of July, I sort of kept that momentum, and it always comes to a crash. And I think this is the crash, basically, where you're just sort of like, you've had this momentum going and it starts to feel exhausting, and you start thinking, you know, I really would like a night to just watch some dumb TV. And then you do that instead. So it's a sort of natural thing. And then the other thing is that on Monday, we have our follow-up appointment with Jamie at WSU in Pullman, where they are going to do a CT scan and see how my dog is Jamie, and she has a nasal tumor. She was treated for it earlier this year. So they can't do a follow-up right away or to see what has happened since the treatment. So we have our appointment on Monday. And I think there is a low level of stress that has existed for that. And yeah, there just have been things like that going on in the background as well. But I did finish one book. Let's talk about what I finished first, because this is one of my most anticipated books for the second half of 2023. I had gotten an advanced reader's copy of it. It is Good Women Stories. It comes out November. I'm looking at the date and saying November. It's September. It comes out September 12th, 2023. The author is Halle Hill. This is published by Hub City Press, a publisher that is smaller, and one that I am quickly learning to follow because they do a lot of really interesting things. So part of the reason that this caught my eye is that I was specifically looking at titles that Hub City was releasing in the latter part of 2023. The other part is that Deisha Philyaw, author of My Beloved, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, gave this book a blurb and had a very nice thing to say about it. So that really piqued my interest, as you can imagine. I can see why Deisha Philyaw would really be interested in this book. However, it set an expectation for me that was a little unfair, because I love The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. Every time I bring it up, which is a lot, I refer to it as My Beloved. That's how much I love that book. So this had a really high bar to clear, and it didn't clear the bar, but it's a really good book. It's very well worth your time. It is, I think, 200 pages. I would absolutely say if you are a fan of Brandon Taylor's Real Life or any of his other books, this would be a good one for you to pick up. If you are a fan of My Beloved, The Secret Life of Church Ladies, this would be an interesting one to pick up. If you're a fan of Luster by Raven Leilani, these are the sorts of books that I would put in the same area as this book. So if you have been a fan of any of those, this would definitely be a good one for you to follow. It is short stories, and I know that's a bit of a high bar for some people, about Black women and their lives. And it is about, in many cases, these people behaving in self-destructive ways, making bad decisions, sometimes getting in their own way, sometimes having other people get in their way. And that can be difficult for people to read. It can seem inexplicable, but these are people who are dealing with traumas and depression and things like that, and they're just making bad choices a lot of the time. That is something that follows through a lot of the stories. The way it is described on the back cover is that this is a darkly funny and deeply human collection. Good Women observes how place, blood ties, generational trauma, obsession, and boundaries, or lack thereof, influence how we navigate our small worlds, and how those worlds so often collide in ways we don't expect. And there is a definite sense of humor in this book. It is a bit dark occasionally. I admit sometimes your mileage may vary with the stories, and I know that is exactly the thing that people don't like about story collections, is that the quality can kind of rise and dip and be a bit. There were some stories where I got a little bit sort of irritated with the character, because it does occasionally feel really inexplicable the way people can act. There are acts of violence in here as well, so there are certainly trigger warnings. But I liked this book. I feel bad saying that it didn't meet the bar of My Beloved, The Secret Life of Church Ladies, but again, that's a very high bar to clear. And I will be very interested in seeing where Halle Hill's career goes from here, because I think there's a lot of promise in these books. And just the fact that she is able to create stories that are funny and interesting and have such messy, chaotic characters and events, shows a lot of promise. So it'll be very interesting to see what she does from here. But like, this is only a 200-page book, and it's short stories, and some of these stories are very short. So I probably, under different circumstances, would have finished this in 2 or 3 days, and maybe 4 days. Let's be fair, and moved on to another book. But it took me the whole week to read, and that's fine. But I did finish it, and I would still recommend it to you. Again, it comes out September 12th. So contact an independent bookstore or go to bookshop.org and pre-order it. I will have a link to this book's page on Bookshop down below if you would like a reference, because again, Bookshop is a fantastic alternative to that behemoth internet company that I really don't like to talk about too much. I don't support them. What was I listening to on audio? I had gotten access to Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and she narrates the audio, and she has a fantastic voice, and I knew this, so it's not really a surprise, but it is very compelling to listen to her talk about her life. I'm not very far into the book at this point, and I think I only have about a week left in my borrow of this on Libby, so I need to pick up the pace and get moving. And I will. I think I haven't had a good attention span for an audiobook, and I really want to pay attention to this. So I've been listening to podcasts a lot and going back to listening to old podcast episodes. And I don't really know why that is. I think it's a reaction to stress in my life. You know, again, Jamie's appointment is coming up, but I am enjoying what I have listened to of this so far. Again, her voice is fantastic. You could just flow along. In fact, I think that was one of the problems. I think I early on was so caught up listening to the sound and the cadence of her voice that I wasn't actually paying attention to what she was saying. So maybe the audio was a mistake, but I'm going to commit to it, and because this is a book that I had wanted to read for a very, 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 very long time, and I'm glad that I'm finally getting around to it. So I will continue with this, and hopefully by the next Friday Reads video, I will be done with it, because I think by the next Friday Reads video, my hold of it will be gone. So we'll see how that goes. I already started my next book, and this is actually, and 2 of these are spoilers for my book haul for July, which should be coming next week. Good Women will be on that, and so will Dearborn, stories by Ghassan Zeineddine. This is an advanced reader's copy. I'm looking for the date in which this will be published. It is September 5th, 2023. This was another one of my most anticipated books for the second half of 2023. I'll have a link to that video in the description box down below. I have only read the first story of this one so far. It is extremely compelling and kind of in the mold of Good Women. It is sort of darkly funny and has this sort of almost twisted sense of humor. Not twisted. Twisted is the wrong word. But it has a sense of humor, even as it's dealing with these very heavy topics of immigration, deportation, failed dreams, all in one story. And racism and discrimination after 9/11, again, all in one story. And the first story, very captivating. I am really excited to continue reading this book. These are stories that are set in Dearborn, Michigan. And it's interesting because I had just finished the new season of Padma Lakshmi's TV show, Taste the Nation, which I love. And she did an episode about Middle Eastern communities in Dearborn, Michigan, how they ended up there and how they sort of keep their culture alive through their food and other ways. And this is set in that same community. And so far, one story in, it's really knocking it out of the park for me. Like, I am loving it, and I can't wait to continue getting further. And it has a blurb from Morgan Talty. So this comes from Tin House, which is another smaller publisher, and they were on my radar because they published Night of the Living Rez, which was one of my favorite books from last year. And I was intentionally looking at their catalog to see what they had coming out, and this jumped out to me from that. So I requested an advanced copy of it, and they were kind enough to send it to me, and I am so excited to finish this book. So what's coming over the next week? I'm going to commit to this and finishing this. I'm going to commit to Maya Angelou and finishing that. Beyond that, I'm not making any plans. Joel and I are going to listen to an audiobook when we drive to Pullman on Saturday, and we'll see how far we get into it over that drive. We decided we're going to listen to Red, White, and Royal Blue because a film adaptation of that is coming out, and we figured we've been kind of curious to read it for a while, so we thought, why not do it? We want something light and fluffy for the drive, so that's what we will be doing. I also got Stone Fruit by Lee Lai from the library, and I'm probably going to fit this in after I get back, but I want to finish Dearborn first. And I thought about getting back to Stone Butch Blues, which I had put down in June because it was really heavy. I'm just really not in the mood yet. I'm not ready to go back to that level of stress and anxiety and all the violent things that happen in that book. I really do want to finish it. I still need time. So hopefully I will get back to it at some point soon. But that's, I think, everything for this Friday Reads video. Again, what an astonishing landmark. When I started this channel in early 2019, I really didn't know what to expect. And it has succeeded beyond my wildest imagination or anything that I would have expected. And it feels weird to say that because, again, imposter syndrome, but it has. Like, 10,000 is wild. I can't get over it. And thank you. And I'm going to commit myself all over again to helping shine a light on new channels. I admit, since the pandemic, I haven't spent a lot of time cruising through BookTube to find new interesting videos or new channels or anything like that, and I need to get back in the habit of doing that. Since the pandemic, I have very specific, because there have been a lot of stress. You know, we had one dog get sick and we lost him. Jamie has been sick. Our foster son situation kind of imploded and he moved out and is on his own, and it's his life and it's not for me to tell. But you know, there have been things going on in addition to the pandemic that made me retreat to more familiar forms of entertainment. So I've really relied on channels that I know that I like and focused on them. And I need to get out of that box some more. So I will work to do that. But really, thank you. It means a lot to me that so many people have followed along, and I look forward to what comes. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And as always, I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.